Why do narcissists give unsolicited advice, especially in the areas that they suck at the most? Let's talk about this. I'm Julie Melillo. I'm a life coach here in NYC, yourdreamslifecoach.com. And I've got a bunch of videos on all different topics from life coaching, narcissists, writing, ASMR. I'm an ENFP, so personality types also. That's why I do a bunch of things at one time, because I'm an ENFP. That's a separate video. Why do narcissists do this super annoying thing? They come up to you, they give you unsolicited advice, usually very forcefully, in a way that they're going to be super angry if you tell them, no, that doesn't work for me. They act like a guru. And I'm a life coach, guys, and I don't act like a guru. You don't have to be a guru. I mean, you don't have to act like a guru to be a life coach. In fact, you're not supposed to. Life coaching is supposed to be about drawing answers out of someone else and finding their own truth for them. It's not supposed to be about forcing someone to see things the same way that you do and saying, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. That's not what life coaching is. That's something, but it's not life coaching. But I see lots of these guru type people, often relationship coaches, who in my opinion are narcissists. I'm not going to name names. I'm not saying all of them are, and I do relationship coaching, and I'm not a narcissist, but I do think a lot of them are. And I think what happens here, they have their shame about knowing that they suck at relationships. On some level, deep in their mind, they know that. So they take that thing that they suck at and they say, I don't suck at that. I'm the best at that. Because that's how narcissists think. And then they try to advise you. And if you agree with that and you're like, oh, a great advice, it boosts up their ego to cover up that shame. That's the only thing I can think, because it's a pattern that I just keep seeing. And it's like, of all topics, of all topics, why is this person giving advice on the topic that they're the worst at out of everything? Everyone has something that I think they can give advice on. Everyone is good at something. But narcissists, if you look for this pattern, I feel like you're going to see it. They tend to give advice on the very thing that they are the worst at. So for example, let's say a narcissist is terrible at math. They will probably try to help you with your math. They will probably try to give you advice on math and say, no, you're doing that wrong. You should do that my way instead, even though they have no idea what they're talking about. It's one of the most infuriating things that narcissists do. And I was thinking about this for a long time, and that's what I think it is. If you think it's something else, let me know in the comments. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not diagnosing anyone here. It's just my 2 cents on why they might be doing this. And I've noticed this, years ago, I used to run soccer groups, a million years ago. And so I would have these soccer groups, like on Meetup, and we would have just different people every time. And it was really interesting because I noticed it was always the very worst players who were advising other people, yelling at people. Oh, you idiot, you missed the ball. Like, how did you do? You should have done this. Those people who had that attitude, the people advising others the most were always the very worst players. And the very best players, like, the guys that played in college and were like, almost went pro and then didn't, they were so quiet. They didn't have a single piece of advice for anybody because they were focused on themselves and they weren't insecure about it. So if someone makes a mistake, who cares? What's it to them? It was just a fun soccer group. It wasn't, a league or anything. It was just all for fun. So that's something I've noticed throughout my life, is the people who are the least qualified to give that advice. Like the worst soccer player on the field is yelling the loudest, pointing out mistakes, criticizing, and all that kind of thing. It blows my mind. It really does. So this is the thing. If you're not a narcissist, like I'm not a narcissist, you know very clearly, I'm good at this, I'm okay at this, I'm bad at this, and it's based on reality. That is the key difference. Narcissists have these lists in their mind that are based on how their ego feels at the moment and what lies they need to believe. And then their ego yells at them, "You're the best! You're the best at this!" Well, I must be the best because I told myself I'm the best. That's like as far as their thinking goes. They don't have that critical thinking to be like, wait a second, am I really even good at that? Maybe I should look at reality and look at the evidence. Like, for example, as a non-narcissist, I could evaluate my ability to play soccer very accurately. Because when you're self-aware, you can do that, which is something narcissists don't have. So from the beginning, I was playing at like a second grade level, and I knew it, but I just wanted to play because it was fun, like as an adult. And some guy even told me, "You're playing like a second grader," and I was like, "Yeah, because that's the level that I'm at." Not gonna argue with you there. Then I improved, and I had some really good days where I got a bunch of goals, and I had some really awful days where like the ball would just slowly roll by me, and I was like, I wonder why I didn't kick the ball. That was really bad. And then no one would pass to me ever again. So that's self-awareness, where you can evaluate and you can take an average of all these hundreds of pieces of evidence and have a conclusion that's based on reality and say, I have some good moments in soccer, but I'm still probably in the beginning, maybe intermediate level. A narcissist is just going to feel they're the best because they've told themselves that. It's based on nothing. Like, they could play the worst game to where everyone's like, "Oh, this is awful. We need to like never play with this person again." And they'd walk off the field being like, "I'm so much better than these other players. They just can't see my talent because they're jealous." That's their typical narcissist thought pattern, right? So I think that explains why. And then that person who walks off the field saying, "I'm the best soccer player ever," they're just jealous. They might be the one who advises people the most and yells at the other players, "Oh, I can't believe you missed that." Luckily, since I ran the soccer group, I could call them out and make sure that that was not a problem. And every time someone would do that, I would tell them, "Don't do that. Don't coach the other players. You're not here to do that." But it's so toxic, and it really would bring the vibe down of all the other players who were really good players, much better than me. I was one of the worst players, especially when I started this group, which was a million years ago. But anyway, it was interesting though, because all I would have to do is call them out, give everyone a reality check, don't coach other players. And I had that in the rules as well, that you weren't allowed to do that. And then I would up the vibe by saying, "Hey, you guys are all doing a great job." And it would just like go away. Like, the problem would just go away, and the guys would go back to being like happy and having fun playing. So it's such a weird thing though that they do. But I've seen that a lot, especially with the relationship coaches, like I was saying, where they take their same toxic relationship pattern and they think that that's good and something to be taught, instead of seeing it as so insecure, approval seeking, which is the very thing these relationship coaches will tell you, like, "Don't look like you're approval seeking because that's weak." But then every message is approval seeking. I'm not going to name names, but I see this all the time, like on TikTok and social media, of these relationship coaches giving, in my opinion, really horrible advice. It might work with dark triad people, like other narcissists, but they don't need to be taught. They already know how to manipulate using dark triad techniques. So who are they teaching this to is what I wonder, because if you're not a narcissist, you're just going to be pretty straightforward. You're not going to play games like that for the most part, unless maybe you're have an insecure attachment style or something like that, which is a different issue. I have another video on that, attachment styles. But yeah, I just don't get, well, I mean, I do get it now, but for a long time I didn't get why those narcissists insisted on giving relationship tips that were like if someone said that to me over text, I would stop talking to them. That kind of thing, where they're like fishing for compliments and they're like, oh, I'm probably the best person you've ever dated, right? No, it's just a joke. It's just a joke, but I am the best you've ever dated, right? Like that kind of thing. And they're telling people to say stuff like that. But it's because, again, the same pattern, right? The pattern is they're insecure about something that they repeatedly fail at. They're insecure, their ego lies to them and screams, you're the best at that, everyone else is just jealous. They cover up their shame by advising other people on that same topic, the topic that they are the worst at in the entire universe. And I would bet these narcissists actually are good at something, not that, but something that if they chose to help people with what they were actually good at, it might be valuable. But no, they will pick the one thing they're the most horrible at and insist you take their advice on that. So when narcissists give you advice, I want you to really think to yourself. Don't say it to them, because that's just gonna create, cause them to freak out, which isn't good for you, because then you have to deal with that. Ask yourself, what's their track record in this topic they're giving me so much unsolicited advice on? It's the person who's like been married 10 times who wants to tell you how to make your marriage work, right? It's the person who's gotten fired from every job they've ever had who wants to tell you this is how you build a career. This is what you should do. You need to do this, blah, blah. And it's like I said, I don't recommend calling them out, but it's usually something you don't think about in that moment. You just are kind of shocked at what they're saying to you. But the thing is, when you're not a narcissist, everything you say to people is true, right? So then when a narcissist talks to you, you assume, well, they wouldn't be saying this to me if it wasn't true. So I think it's important to remember that they are lying to themselves, and they're lying to you also because they have to lie to themselves to cover up their shame, and that distorts and messes everything up. So the message they tell you really most times has very little to do with you. It has to do with themselves, much like the soccer players I was talking about, or the worst soccer players were yelling at the best soccer players and, oh, I can't believe you missed that. Oh, that pass was so perfect. They were like almost throwing themselves on the ground, like so dramatic. And yet these were the worst players, and the best players there were silent about how other people were playing. Oh man, I used to always, whenever they would do that, I would yell out, like, just a reminder that this is not the World Cup. This is a meetup group. And then everyone would laugh, and they would like laugh and the narcissist would be like, oh, and then they'd stop doing it because they're like kind of like a little kid inside, it's not that hard to deal with them if you are able to. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't like my meetup group, right? But yeah, it's such a weird thing, but it helps to remember that what they're saying probably isn't based on reality, because they will say some horrible things to you, like let's say you've been doing music for 15 years and it's your passion and you want to have a career with that someday. They'll be like, no, that's not how you do music. And this is a person who's like never done any music in their entire life, and they want to advise you on how you should do music. What? Or the person who has been on like 2 dates in their whole life, and they want to tell you how to date. They know better than you do. So like consider that, especially when they're criticizing you. Zoom out and be like, wait a second. What's their track record here? Now, it's not to say that there's not something valuable from having failed, learned from that, and shared that with people. But that's a very different thing, because number one, you learn from the failure. And that gives you some wisdom. The problem, though, is narcissists don't learn from their failures. They don't learn from it. And they want to advise you off of having not learned a lesson. So this is someone who might go to a job interview like in their sweatpants and be like, oh, I'm just so amazing, I can do whatever I want. And then they never get hired anywhere. But they want to tell you about their big transformation that they had when they learned that they were free to wear their sweatpants to the interview. It was so emotional because I'm free to be myself. But yet they don't have a job because no one wants to hire someone who comes to a job wearing sweatpants. So consider the source is really what I'm saying, and take everything they tell you with a grain of salt. It's not to say that they might actually tell you some things that are true about yourself some of the time. So it's not like you should disregard, just put blinders on and block everything out, but you should think it through. Use your critical thinking. Does it make sense what they're saying? Does it match reality? You know, living from a place of reality is your best way to check things and figure out, right? Because otherwise you're going to get in a big mess. Like, if I lied to myself and I told myself I'm the best soccer player in the world, number one, people would laugh at me behind my back and they'd be like, gosh, she sucks. What is she talking about? She just missed that pass. Like, that was an easy pass. She just missed it. And no, I had my moments. I had some games where I don't know what it was. It was caffeine. It was something where it was like goal, goal, goal. But most of the time that was not the case. So if I lied to myself, I would make myself look like a fool, and I might put myself in all kinds of situations that would just be ridiculous. Like, I might demand to play with some of the people there on their competitive team and like, well, you better give me a spot because I'm the best. And it would have just been ridiculous. And those people probably would have blocked me and been like, this girl's crazy, you know? Because we have cause and effect in life, which is something else that narcissists usually don't understand. Of course, every area of their brain that's damaged, in my opinion, from the ones that I've known, sometimes it works a little bit, sometimes it doesn't work at all, and then you get like this continuum. They're all still narcissist, but they might, like, one narcissist might have a little bit more critical thinking than another, and they might be like, oh no, I wouldn't do that, that's stupid, like, I know I'm bad at soccer. Another narcissist would be way out on that end, have no clue what I'm talking about, and just be like, oh no, I'm honest with myself, and I'm the King of England too, and I'm, people are just jealous because I'm the King of England, and, they're just way out there in outer space. And I feel like every brain area is like that because it makes sense. Scan their brain, certain parts are not lighting up. That's true of all narcissists. They have the same areas that don't light up right on brain scans, but some of them have like a flicker or like a little bit works. They're still a narcissist, but that's why I think it's a physical problem, because it is a physical brain damage issue and no one seems to talk about that. And I think that's the way to figure it out long term, is to try to fix these people's brains, because it's a physical problem and we need to figure out what caused that. And we don't have proof that it's what they say. They say that it's a combination of genetics and how you were raised. They just don't have any proof of that at all. And that's also the same thing they say about every single disease they don't understand. It's a mystery. It's probably a combination of genes and environment, but more research is needed. In other words, they don't know. What we do know, and we can only go off of what we do know, parts of their brains don't work. And I think understanding that is so freeing. If you have dealt with narcissists and had the fallout from all that happen, when you understand that parts of their brains don't work, it's a totally different thing to get your head around. The way I think about it is like a person could be legally blind, but they can still have a flicker of sight, right? They can maybe see shades of gray, or they can have some part of their vision that does work, but they're still legally blind. That's how I think of narcissists. It's a continuum in that one person might see 0, someone else might see 15%. And that's how I think of narcissists. One narcissist might have 20% working empathy, where sometimes, some situations, they kind of have empathy. Sometimes. It's not reliable though, right? Or they have some critical thinking sometimes, but other times they don't, because it's like a flickering light bulb. It's not a light that's just always on, which is how it is when your brain works. So anyway, it's a sad thing. It's sad for narcissists. It's obviously very hurtful for the people around them. I do hope someday we can figure out what has caused the brain damage in their brain, and we can find ways to fix that and prevent it. That's my hope. But like I said, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a scientist. I just read a lot of things, and I've known a lot of people. I'm almost 41. I'm turning 41 very soon. And so I have known a lot of people in my life. I've known a lot of narcissists, and I've just kind of figured out some patterns. Anyway, guys, I hope that was interesting. If you liked it, please like it. And please comment if you have any thoughts on this. I'd love to hear. Also, subscribe if you would like to. I have a bunch of other playlists of variety of topics, like I said. I have a narcissist playlist for more of this. I have life coaching stuff, self-development stuff. And check out my book. I have a book on how to life coach yourself, because it's expensive to hire your own life coach, but it does work amazingly well. And I know what that's like when you're like, I want a life coach. I want to like start a business or reach my goals finally, whether it's career, dating, friends, fun, life purpose, but you don't have the money for it, especially right now with the economy. So I wanted to be able to help people in some way who can't afford sessions that cost hundreds of dollars. So I'm going to put a link below to my book. The first 3 chapters are free because it's on Kindle Vella. So you sign in with the Amazon account, just your regular Amazon account that you buy stuff with. You sign in with that, and then you can read the first 3 chapters for free. And if you like it, you can actually buy only the chapters you want to buy. You don't even have to buy all of them. You can just buy the ones you want. I recommend you buy all of them because they kind of go in order, but you know, in the future, as I'm going to be adding more chapters to it going forward, you can then like pick and choose. If you know, I'm gonna have exercises and things you can actually do to coach yourself, and you can pick and choose going forward. Thanks for watching, guys.